All right, happy Saturday, everybody. Hope you all are doing well today and this week. Today I want to talk a little bit about emotions and dealing with emotions and really just sharing. A lot of times these ones where I'm sitting outside on my porch, we're talking about like different pieces that are just personal to me. And to give you a little bit of a backstory, a little bit of piece about me, when we first bring up the idea of emotions and feelings and things like that, I always grew up with this impression that wasn't necessarily taught to me, but I kind of caught it as I was growing up, that emotions were good and emotions were bad. But there wasn't this piece of like, oh, I just identify and I have emotions. It was more like, I've got emotions I can share, and then I've got emotions that you don't ever share. Like, you don't deal with that type of anger towards a person or that type of sadness or whatever it might be. There was aspects that I would avoid different pieces of emotion. And it wasn't until therapy and counseling that I got to a place that even my counselor, my therapist at the time was like, you know, emotions aren't bad, right? And it was kind of like an aha moment. I was like, are you sure? They definitely seem bad. They definitely seem like something that I don't want to acknowledge, or I don't want to have in my life. Like, how would they not be bad? And being able to understand early on in therapy this aspect that emotions weren't a bad thing, that they were just part of who I am, that was revolutionary. Now, it might seem kind of silly because you're watching this, you're like, yeah, Ben, I already know that. I deal with emotions all day long. Well, for me, I was really good at compartmentalizing. I was really good at like shoving them down and putting them into a box and like putting them away. But before I even knew the fancy word of compartmentalization, there was a piece where I would kind of envision it and imagine it, and it would be a part of my life where I would kind of put it in boxes. I would think, how do I actually box up how I'm feeling, how I'm thinking? How would I actually box up my emotions so I didn't have to deal with them? So I'd take different emotions of shame and guilt and frustration and sadness, and I'd box it up and I'd put it back in like the dark recesses of my mind so I didn't have to deal with it. So I didn't have to think about it. So I didn't have to experience the pain of dealing with emotions that I didn't feel were good or that were happy. So growing up, there's a lot of avoidance of emotions, different pieces that I wanted to avoid and ignore and pretend that they just didn't exist and they weren't a part of my reality. But they were. And emotions are a giant piece. Another piece is like giant of emotions. Emotions are one of the hardest things for me to tap into. Surprise, as a narcissist, emotions are one of the hardest things to tap into. And one of the things I would say is when you watch my content, when you watch my videos, I can be very blunt and I can be very much matter of fact, this is what it is. But I struggle to be able to tap into the emotions. I struggle to be able to actually feel what the person's feeling when I'm talking to the person on a video. I just struggle to be able to connect in that way. People ask me, like, how has your emotions increased, or how have you been better with emotions since becoming aware, and all these things. Like, this whole aspect is huge. But for me, it was one of the hardest pieces, that it's still one of the hardest pieces, and that's to continue to learn how to be able to bring up emotions and engage emotionally. A couple nights ago on our Thriver community call, one of the ladies there came to a place of a realization, an aha moment for her, that she knew she was going to be taking the next step. Taking the next step and actually going no contact, separating, because the guy that she was with was continuing to abuse her, and as she continued to see more and more knowledge of it, she got to the place where she was like, I can't avoid it anymore. Been trying to avoid it, been trying to avoid the truth, been trying to avoid the systems and the process that are exposing truth in my life, been trying to avoid it. I can't avoid it anymore. And she had this whole piece where she was talking through it, and she got pretty emotional. Not in a bad way, but she just got pretty emotional. And when she got emotional, I could actually feel it. That is new. It's new within the past couple of years where I've been able to feel and actually sense different things. Now, it's a little bit different as far as like, if you and I get on a Zoom call and you start crying, I'm probably not going to start crying. But I got choked up because I've been invested in this person. I've been invested in seeing her grow and develop, and I'm invested from the very first call and contact that we had with her. Well, one of her fears was, are you going to force me to go no contact? Are you going to tell me to, leave? And I'm like, no. Like, I want you to be able to actually find you. I want you to actually be able to discover clarity in your life so that you have the confidence to make the decision to stay or to make the decision to leave. Because both are really hard and really shitty decisions oftentimes. Leaving you stuck mentally and emotionally, or leaving you confused. That is the worst place for anybody to be. Because it doesn't allow you to create, doesn't allow you to produce, doesn't allow you to grow and develop who you are. It just leaves you in a status that is stuck no matter what you do. So part of those fears she originally expressed. And then we get a month in and she's having these epiphanies of, I gotta go. And I could feel it. There was an emotion piece there that I could feel. One of the first times that I experienced the emotion from another person that affected me was early on in my awareness journey, but was with our daughter, Sophia. And this was before my wife left. This is while I'm in therapy. This is all different types of pieces, but there was one piece that I still remember to this day. As I was taking her and I was buckling her into one of her swings, the like mamaroo that kind of goes back and forth. And I was buckling her in, and whenever I was buckling her, she'd move slightly and the buckle like pinched her. And whenever it pinched her, she started crying, she started wailing because I just pinched her. And there was a piece of me that thought a couple different things. One, I couldn't get away from it. Like, I'm the one that did this to her. Like, I pinched her and she cried. There wasn't anyone else I could blame. There wasn't anything else I could do. I couldn't even say like it was her fault because she's a baby. She can barely like control what she's even doing with her own body at this point. And then there's also this piece that kind of hit home because I was like, she's looking at me being like, hey, you're the person that's supposed to protect me and you just hurt me. And all these waves of emotion are coming up, and I found myself getting choked up. I found myself even having tears of like, I can't believe, not that I just did that, but I couldn't believe like how it was feeling. It was new. It was something that was different. And all through my journey, I've been trying to figure out how do I continue to unlock that. I've learned inside of meditation, inside of therapy, inside of counseling, inside of stacking, I've learned a lot of different ways to tap into emotion. But to be able to actually be here and communicate with someone with emotion, it's super hard. Still haven't figured it out. I still haven't got all the pieces. I've gotten closer. I've been able to connect more. I've been able to work through a lot more. But being able to communicate emotionally about what's going on, early on, I didn't connect or communicate with any emotions at all, ever. I didn't want to. There's a piece of me that was afraid of engaging with my emotions. Because if I engaged with my emotions, to me, I equated that with weakness. So I thought if I show this sadness, or if I show this guilt, or if I show this shame, it means I'm just weak. It means I'm not good enough. It means I'm unworthy. And the fact of the matter is I was unworthy with my wife's love. I was unworthy of her support and her sticking around for such a long period of time before she left, before she came back. Like, all of those pieces I was unworthy of. But I was still beating myself up. Day in, day out, telling myself that I wasn't a bad person, because if I actually admitted it, if I actually admitted the shame or the guilt and the things that I was dealing with, if I actually admitted how I'd hurt other women, then it felt like there was a piece of me that was going to break. And the piece of me that was going to break was simply just going to be the mask. The piece that I worked so hard to construct for such a long period of time, to put up, so that I would feel better, so I would look better, so I'd act better. And there's almost a question of like, who am I if I break this down? Who am I if I actually release the mask and show the world that I'm a liar, that I'm a cheater, that I'm an abuser? What happens when I release to the world, I'm like, I did this. And then they ask the question of, why did you do this? And I'm like, I don't know. It's a piece of me that I liked it. I liked the chase. I like the excitement of trying to be able to win someone. And then the letdown of once I have them, I'm like, I don't know what to do with them because I'm not vulnerable. I'm not going to actually communicate emotionally. I'm not going to actually dive a deeper level. But being able to even say even some of this stuff today, probably wouldn't feel comfortable even like 6 months ago. Because I've been working on learning how to own who I am. And that means owning all of my emotions. The good, the bad, the light, the dark. It means owning them and being willing to share them and explain them, and express them. This means that when we go through trying times and frustrating moments and arguing conversations and things like that, I have to be able to own my feelings, because if I can own my feelings, then I can hold space for my wife's feelings. And if I can't deal with my feelings, then I'm going to shun her feelings. If I can't deal with the feelings of guilt or shame or regret or doubt or fear, then a lot of times I'll look at her and I'll be like, I don't want to feel what you're feeling. And sometimes there's a piece of me that's afraid. There's a piece of me that's afraid that if she gets in a funk and she doesn't come out of it, what about me? How am I going to come out of it if I'm relying on her to be that rock emotionally? At the end of the day, I can't. At the end of the day, I have to focus on me. how I show up, how I engage vulnerably, empathetically, emotionally, sympathetically, to be able to work through these pieces. Because when I expand my capacity to express the totality of who I am, the realness, the rawness, all the feelings, all the facts, all the things that are happening, then I continue to rise and grow for myself, for my wife, and for my daughters. So part of the journey even of these videos sitting out on my porch, they're different, right? They're different. They're not just always for you to be different, they're also for me to be different. Like for me to be able to show up in a different frame, in a different perspective, in a different idea, in a different thought, to try to unlock more of who I am. Some of it, you're just along for the journey. You're just along for the ride. Because I'm trying to see, how do I actually continue to engage and unlock who I am, like emotionally, dealing with all these different pieces that I haven't dealt with before, dealing with the emotions and the feelings that I haven't owned 100% before. I'm trying to do that one step at a time. Maybe you're in the same spot where you're trying to figure out how to own your emotions, or how to own the triggers, how to work through those. I want to provide you with not just the science and the tools behind it, but a community to support you with it. Love to be able to help you move forward in the healing process as you continue to be either with a narcissist, or you're trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong, what's up, what's down, do I leave, do I stay, or you've already left the narcissist and you need help accelerating your healing and your growth. Go to rawmotivations.com. You can click on the breakthrough call for women if you're a woman that's stuck in a toxic relationship, or you can click on the breakthrough call for men if you're a guy that's shown up as a liar, as a cheater like I have. So I want to be able to help you heal and move forward for you. If you're willing to commit the time and the attention and the effort, I know that you can win. Because it comes down to consistency and commitment. If any of this resonates with you and you want to learn more, I invite you just to go to rawmotivations.com. I've got a short video there for you to be able to watch, just to be able to see what I do, and if it resonates, let's talk. Well, y'all have a blessed and wonderful day. Thanks for tuning in on a Saturday. We'll see y'all next time.